AI tool?
Well, I think the first thing to do, the best advice would be have a data quality management program. If you don't have one, you will not know whether your data is prepared correctly. So have a data quality management program.
Start with something. Okay, good advice. Matt, I know you've got good advice, but that's not what I want. I want some bad advice. Give me some bad advice on
Yeah.
prepping your data for an AI tool.
Yeah. I think I think AI loves as much data as it can possibly get. So I think you
Sure.
should include everything, including, non-standard and irrelevant fields. And you probably shouldn't bother to clean up things like timestamps, dates,
No, why? Why
or,
do something that's silly?
identity aliases either.
All right. I'm taking this to you. Back to you, Jonna. Give me some worse advice because that's pretty
I,
bad.
I'm I'm gonna go with Matt. I mean, I think it's a great idea to feed AI as much as possible. So get it connected to absolutely everything in the internet, including all sources of false data you can probably get a hold of so that you can compare and contrast, right?
So it's just what Matt said, but even more. Good
Yes,
advice or
exactly.
good bad advice. Let's start this.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another Super Cyber Friday, our penultimate, that means second to last, penultimate show for 2025. So did I say too many numbers there? 2025. Hacking AI data readiness is today's topic, and our critical thinking about what you have to do before you turn on your shiny new tool. And we're kind of, by the way, when we say shiny new tool, who's turning on a shiny new tool that is not an AI shiny new tool? It's got some AI in it. All right, let me introduce our guests. It's Jonathan Johnson, the CEO and founder of Nemertes, and also Matt Goodrich, Director of Information Security over there at Alteryx. Hey, Alteryx, they're our wonderful sponsor for this very episode of Super Cyber Friday. Lots of different ways to participate. We want your 10% better tips. Remember, hashtag 10P and how to start getting your data ready for AI tools. Any tip you have, even a tiny little one, is a good tip, and we want to hear it. We have the chat room. Look, if you got questions or comments, you want to be on camera, just say, bring me on. We'll try to get you all on and ask a question of our guests. There is a little speech bubble, two on top of each other with a little Q inside of it. Click on that and ask some questions. We will get to as many of those as possible. And you can also vote for your favorite questions. So if we get lots of them, which I hope we do, we will go to the ones voted up the most. All right. As you saw, good advice, bad advice, worse advice, how to start getting your data ready for AI tools. We'll play the public interest. We'll do that through Kahoot. If you look at the icons, the one at the bottom or close to the bottom looks like an old game controller. That will be your Kahoot button. You'll click on that when we get there. So hold tight. And we have a new game, Your Favorite Deep Fake. And we'll have last questions and answers. And then we'll do our meetup. If you've never come to one of our post-show meetups, I'm looking at you. I want you to come because we would like to meet you virtually face to face. I also want to mention that our very last show is going to be next Friday, Hacking AI Workflows. If you are interested in this topic, you will also be interested in the topic next Friday, an hour of critical thinking about securing sensitive data beyond traditional cybersecurity perimeters. Please join us. That will be our last show of 2025. And then, as I said, stick around for the meetup. Those will happen at the very end of the show. All right, let's talk about the big topic at hand. I think we very much alluded to this in our, bad advice, worse advice. But Matt, and I know you can go on, but let's just high level. Why are we even having this discussion of preparing data for AI tools or just tools in general?
Yeah, I think if your data foundation is shaky, and you start to put AI on top of it, you're just building a very expensive tower that is bound to fall over.
Mm-hmm. And Jonna, what would you add to that?
Well, first of all, when you're talking, for some reason, those of you who know the Randall Munroe, the XKCD picture with the shaky tower with the code that's been supported by one guy since 1973,
Yeah.
that's basically it. I would also add that if you don't have any understanding of, and I mentioned earlier, data quality management, that means you don't even know what data quality is. There is no way that your AI is going to help you with that. AI does not have any mechanism for telling data quality. So you have to actually impose that going in, saying, this is trustworthy, this is correct, this is not, this is unknown. And so if you don't have any of that in there, then there's no way AI is going to fix it, which is really just building on what Matt said.
That is a really, really good point. And and by the way, I'm gonna echo this multiple times, and I've echoed in many shows. So one of our guests, a guy named Davi Ottenheimer, who does privacy and trust for Inrupt, he has said this about AI and data. You've heard the classic line, garbage in, garbage out. But again, one person's garbage is different than another. So that doesn't really hold. But here's the new thing he's been saying, which I think is fascinating. He says garbage in, beautiful out. Because whether you put in quality data or garbage data, it's still going to look fantastic on the other end. And that goes to your point, John, of there's no mechanism to tell. So let me ask this. Is there a way? I mean, I guess there's ways to do some spot checks, validating, but is there a way that things are going off the rails? Like,
Yeah.
we're all probably using tools. How can we tell if things are going off the rails?
Well, the example, I'm just going to jump in and give this because I still find this example shocking. When AI first became widely available, I'm not going to say came out because it's been coming out since 1980 something.
Mhm.
Um, when it became widely available, people used it to write books. And there's a book called something like The Mushroom Bible, which is actually a very well-known book about how to, go and get mushrooms, right? And which
Mhm.
ones are safe and which ones aren't. Someone used AI to generate a book called The Bible of Mushrooms, in which it contained this brilliant nugget, how to tell a toxic mushroom from a non-toxic mushroom. Taste it, right? That's the problem in a nutshell, because it looked exactly like the other book. It looked as credible as the other book. You would have no way of knowing if you don't happen to be a mushroom specialist. You would read this and go, "Oh, okay." And that's fundamentally the problem here. If your data source is toxic, your book is going to advise you to do something very dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead,
I,
Matt.
yeah. I think models have no concept of quality, right? So they're very capable of producing like confident answers based upon the data they have. And all AI is really about identifying structure and patterns. So, and you can make your data have any structure and any pattern, especially if you don't do anything to it.
Let me just flag that and say all what is called AI at the moment, which is
Yeah.
LLMs, are about structure and patterns. There's a
Yes.
whole
Yes.
vast universe of AI that's much bigger than that, but for the sake of argument, yes. Um, yeah, and I do want to come back to the data quality management thing because it sounds like a buzzword, and in some respects it is a buzzword, but decades ago, people understood that any analytics tool is only as good as the input coming in. And data quality management is an entire life cycle that says, how do we know this data is true? Matt, you mentioned things like timestamps. When did we collect it? When was it last updated? Have we reconciled? If there are multiple different versions, if you have my name is Jonna Till Johnson, Jay Johnson, JT Johnson, are they all the same person? There's a huge discipline around this that needs to get applied to your data just anyway,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
really needs to be in place before you start deploying AI.
I would also throw out that problem existed before AI too. Like if you think about
Yeah,
any
yeah,
knowledge
exactly.
management system in any company, you go search for something and you find 5 different answers from 5 different years,
Exactly.
if they even have timestamps.
Okay, but this goes to something else that's again something I learned from Davi Ottenheimer is when people say garbage in, garbage out, it really is influence in, influence out. Meaning, Jonna, Matt, myself, all three of us, I'm assuming, have good intentions, but we have biases, not malicious, but we do. We just, from our own knowledge and upbringing and whatnot, we have biases. So, how do we take all of this into account, knowing we're going to have biases with our data, Matt?
That's a great question. And it's interesting as a human identifying bias in data, everyone's going to have a different answer. And our bias when we look at the data quality, when we look at what the data going into the system is going to be different from the person sitting next to us. So to me, like this is this is a problem that not a single person working on their data management strategy or their data governance solutions can really solve. But I'd love to hear what Jonah thinks.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on this just a little bit. I don't think bias is as much of a problem as I think we all thought it would be at the beginning. I remember writing and talking a great deal about bias. I think the bigger issue is literally data quality, and I'll sort of keep hammering on that. And I'd also like to just raise something from from the chat discussion, which is, you really need part of data quality management is to overlay your security on top of that. So you need to tag your data to indicate what's sensitive, what's safe to use in a model, what's shared, and you have to have a multidimensional view of each chunk of data. Not only is it how correct is it, how current is it, has it been consolidated, but all those other things. How sensitive is it? What other things can it be combined with? So I'm basically kind of saying, David, yeah, bias, but not really if, as my mother used to say, you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable here. It's an issue, but these other issues are much bigger.
Okay, but some of the reason I mentioned this is, do you remember years ago? And again, I've mentioned this before, and Davi was reminding me about this as well. Years ago, Google got in a lot of hot water because they their image identifying program was starting to identify black men as gorillas and
Right.
apes. So really racist. It was awful. Yada yada. Turns out there was not one black person working on that program at all. So this is the point I'm talking about unintended bias. They knew about this because there were other humans that were being identified as animals, and they fixed it, but they didn't really fix all of it. And that's a perfect case of unintended bias. Like they didn't
Sure,
mean to do it, and they knew about the problem, but it happened, kind of a thing.
it does, but I still think that was an early days issue.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's sort of, I don't want to say it's a known problem, but it's the kind of thing where it's like it's embarrassing. But I think the bigger issue is that you end up with hallucinations that are not just racist or sexist or insulting or something like that, but are dangerously wrong. Or the other thing we haven't touched on yet, and Matt, I'd love your thoughts on this, is releasing information out there that people, shouldn't have. And the problem with releasing information is you can't solve that by data quality management. I think data quality management is step one. But step two is anybody who's ever worked in the three-letter agencies knows it's not about what the classification level is of a particular piece of data. It's how much damage that piece of data can do in conjunction with a bunch of other pieces of data. And that's where we have no insight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think uh, one of the things I've been talking about internally at Alteryx is like, I think there's two foundational pillars to AI identity and access management and data security, data governance, obviously. And so I think a lot of people, when they first think about like enriching and using AI to solve all of their problems, they're like, let's just get all of our all of our data together. Let's link it together. But what they're not thinking about as part of that is like, who should actually have access to all of this data? Is all of this publicly available data? Should every person that's using the AI on top of this be able to see and comprehend all of the data in this ecosystem? And so like data governance is such a huge thing that that needs to be solved as part of this entire ecosystem.
All right, I'm going to
Well,
get. Oh, go ahead, Donna, John.
yeah, I was just going to jump in. You were probably going to go exactly the same spot because you were saying data governance needs to be done here. And Freddie says, hey, considering that manual cleaning and labeling is unsustainable at large scale, what about using LLMs to audit and clean the same data that will then train more specific models? Matt, what do you think? Is that viable?
I I I personally don't trust AI enough to do that. However, I happen to work at a company, Alteryx, that does create automation around cleaning your data and making it ready for AI. So I would tend to yes use automation, but B not use AI for it.
Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat.
All right. Well, the question you just said about Freddie, that was the question I was just going to ask. There is, you know, I get the sense that this is something that so has to be dealt with early on because it is very clear. And Freddie actually asked the kind of a follow up, which is what I'm going to say is this can spin out of control really darn fast, can't it? Because one going wrong will mount on another going wrong, another, and now you're like the train's left, and oh my God, we got trouble. So, Matt, have you seen some of the stuff like happening, and is there any way to kind of reel it back?
Yeah, I think just like you said, once AI is on the rails and it's marching towards something, it's gonna assume it's right and it's doing the right thing. And as you continue to compound that, even thinking about like vibe coders, hey, I built this great foundation. Let me continue to add features and features and features. Um, you know, eventually you're going to have this completely unsustainable, not architected well system, and you're throwing blocks onto that XKCD diagram that you're bound to fail.
Okay. All right. We have a game we need to play. Let's get the game up. All right.
Do you know what
Everyone
others are
click on the
thinking?
little Kahoot
On the
button.
public interest.
Go ahead and Josh, get our game up, if you don't mind. If he was ready. Ah, there we go. All right. So I have not seen this, so I'm going to play along. So there's a little icon, the Kahoot icon, or the game. Again, it looks like a little game control. Click on that. Type in the game pin 4530710. Go ahead and do that, and put your name in. I'm putting my name in here, and everyone get in there. We're going to play, and then I'm going to give it. I'm just going to give it probably another 15, 20 seconds, and then we're going to start the game. So get your butt in there quickly. I know there are a lot more of you out there than this. I want you to play. The next game we will have a prize. Oh, speaking of that, we'll show our prize options very soon, because we now have a prize store, which is pretty friggin' awesome. I'm pretty excited. This was a ways in coming. A few of you have won prizes in the past that we'll be able to pick from the prize store, and we'll have prize codes for you. But all right, I think we're good. I'm going to give a 10-second countdown now. 10, 9, get in there. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's start this. Just got in, Anka. All right. Remember, you have to be accurate and fast to win here. Public interest, round 11. Here we go. What term has the most monthly search queries? One of these does. Preparedness or readiness. I've made my decision. I am hoping for the best. You only have 10 seconds to answer here. So go fast. Correct it? Readiness, I'm 1 for 1. I'm pretty excited about this. Ooh, I'm in third. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty
Just like
excited about
pinball.
it. Oh, yeah. I was just saying, I did a pinball tournament last week, came in third. Very excited about it. All right. Good 50% increase on that readiness over preparedness. Remember, Matt and John and everybody else, this is not just people who work in cyber. It's anybody who searches on the internet. So if a term means something else outside of cyber, you should consider that. All right, next one. Let's go, Josh. We have 4 questions total. All right.
I would be shocked if the answer isn't the one I think it is.
Yes, I would be shocked as well. We're going to find. I am
Oh.
incorrect. We all thought that, and nobody picked imitation. Oh my God.
Wow.
We were all taken. I'm interested to know what the wow. Imitation. Well, I can see that imitation. Yeah, it could. Wow. I bet you just a lot of people don't know how to spell artificial. I think that's why it's happening. I would be interested what's the most common spelling mistake for any word. Cognition. Arrow. I'll be interested in this one. And I got that one wrong. One person got it right. Well, that person's in the lead, whoever that is.
Peter.
Yeah, it's Peter. All right, Peter's in the lead.
Peter's just crushing us, man.
I know. Well, Peter's got to lose this next one. Oh, wow. Look how much cognition beat.
That's interesting. Yeah.
There's going to be like a store or a site called Cognition.
Yeah, right.
There's always something you don't know about that's causing the great leap.
Well, I was thinking about imitation. Like people might be buying a lot of imitation fashions.
Yeah.
Like
So I can
imitation
see
Chanel.
why that did well.
Yeah.
But nobody got that. All right. I'll be shocked if it's 2 of these.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. I thought it was either novel or modern. I chose modern, so I made the mistake. All right. Now, did Peter pick novel? We'll see. Because novel has multiple definitions there. All right. Let's see who got there. Third, 2 out of 4. Charlie. All right. Good job. Lyle. And is it Peter? No, 2 out of 4. No. Peter? Somebody else?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
Peter.
It is Peter.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You only get
Woo-hoo!
bragging rights on this one, Peter. All right. Good job. Good job on that. That was a tough one. Oh my God.
Yeah, that really
A
was.
lot of us got taken by that. All right. I want to move the microphone over to you, Matt, on this because we're talking a lot about AI data preparedness, and this is really the core of what Alteryx does. Our audience wants to know, what is it you're doing that's involved here?
Yeah. Yeah. Alteryx has long been known as like an easy low code, no code way to connect data from anywhere and turn it into deterministic, auditable insights. And I think, like we've been talking about, that matters right now, probably more than it ever has before. Because, like we talked about earlier, you can't build trustworthy AI on top of messy and siloed data. So, what we're doing at Alteryx, we're using the same platform we've had for years now to prepare data before AI touches it. And then we're using Alteryx on the other side via MCP and these other things to bring structure and control and add business context um, into what is, and we're using Alteryx to bring that into what is typically, at least in the large language model era, a non-deterministic system. So,
All right, let me ask you a question
yep.
here. What are you offering me? I come in, I got this pile of data. I'm like, I don't know what to do this, but I do want to dump it in and see what AI has to say. What are you doing to prevent me? Go, hold on, David. Let's clean this up. What are you actually doing?
Yeah. So we can connect to data in pretty much any system. We bring it in into what we call our workflow, where you can sort of shape and mold your data as it goes through the systems. You can figure out what fields really matter to you. You sort of do analysis on each of the fields to figure out, are 75% of these fields null? If so, probably not good data for AI, right?
Right.
And out the other side, we can push it back into a huge number of data sources. So we're helping clean it. We can also bring in data from multiple different systems at one point, connect it together. Do things like normalize identity. Is it Matt.Goodrich? Is it mgoodrich? Is it Matthew.Goodrich? Because each of these systems may
So it really is.
audit in different ways.
Quite a systematic process, and because you've done this so much, you're asking the questions that people are probably not asking themselves.
Exactly.
And guiding them through the process as well.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Go ahead. What were you about
I was
to
going to say, I've done a lot of this manually for a long part of my career. I find myself I love to write code. I end up reaching for R tools more than I end up reaching for Python or something else now.
Oh, well, that's very cool. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put, I'm putting it up right now. I'm publishing it. I'm showing it on the stage. Here's the poll. Would you like a warm handoff to learn more from Alteryx? So essentially, I mean, they could probably just help you with some just basic guideline questions and then give you an idea. So go to the poll right now, answer it. And essentially both answers are a version of yes. Yes, that sounds great. Or no way, I could say no. So both are a version of no. I want to get those in there, please. There we go. Now we're starting to vote up. Go ahead, get your votes in there. Come on, there we go. A few more. We want to make sure you do that. That poll will be up the entire time during the show. I'm going to hide it from the stage right now, but you can still vote on that as well. Please come in. Yeah, look, lots of you are answering right there. Looks like, I mean, let me ask you a question connected to that. What do you see is the biggest, because there's got to be like one or two really huge mistakes people make when they're pulling data in. You're like, I see this all the time. There isn't one person who doesn't make this mistake. What is that?
Yeah, I honestly think it's trying to include too much of your data in
Thinking that more is better.
Yes.
Okay, let's just clearly, and I want to hear from you too, Jonah, your answer to why is more not better, in fact, can be quite bad. Matt,
So are you asking me or are you asking me?
No, Matt first.
Yeah.
Yes. At some point, I would say, depending on what you're trying to do, having all of that extra data isn't providing any additional value. It's probably doing the opposite. In fact, it's detracting from the picture that you're trying to
Have you,
have.
but do you have, I mean, yes, conceptually, I can see that being right, but have you actually seen that play out? Like watch things skew? Jonna, you're saying yes? You've seen it skew, like when you just have too much that's unneeded and all of a sudden it's going in the wrong direction?
Not necessarily in the context of AI, but I have worked with people who genuinely believe that, for example, asking the same question multiple ways is gathering more data when in fact it's not. Like if you're doing market research or something like that, that is not. You're just messing up the data because you're not sure what the truth is, and you're capturing. I mean, the example I always like to use is if you say, "Oh, well, let's vote on who the best looking person of the opposite gender is. Are they, are they is Matt a 10? Okay, now let's look at are his eyebrows a 10? Are his ears a 10?" And it's like, no, the only thing you want the answer to is that one piece of data that answers the question. And I think that that turns out to be a huge problem where people think that lots and lots of ambiguous or outright inaccurate data is somehow better than one piece of data that you know to be true.
This is okay. So this is a really critical issue, and I want to double down on it. Before I want to do, I'm going to tease people with that because I'm going to mention something that it's causing people to go the wrong way. Before I do that, I do because I realize I haven't done this. Next Friday, we're having hacking AI workflows. Same thing. We're going to be talking at greater length on this as well. Please go ahead, click register. Go ahead and click on that. It opens up another window. You can register for this event while you're still in this. We won't take you out of this at all. Go ahead, click register for it, and do that. And then also, if you dismiss it, it's still at the very top of the screen, top of the chat. It says register for hacking AI workflows. Click there. All right. Here's one I'm going to mention, and I've mentioned this before. My apologies if anyone's heard it before. When I was at Dreamforce, this is Salesforce's big conference, they are obsessed. There's just one drum that keeps getting banging over and over again. Collect more data. Just keep collecting more data. Just keep more. There is no sense of what anything we're saying holds true. It's just more means better. That's the only thing you're saying. How do you get the average marketing person? Because this would be like, what would I say to that response, Jonna?
Well, first of all, I have to side note. Look at who we're talking about. I've used Salesforce. Salesforce is a tremendously awesome tool, and they have a great strategic direction when it comes to AI. That said, even within Salesforce, deduplication and consolidation of multiple records has been an enormous pain in the patootie. And so my comment to marketing folks would be, you know how hard that is? Yeah, well, square that or cube it, right? And that would be my response to that, because more data is not better data. If someone, Dwayne, actually weighed in and said, think about all your old document drafts. More data means incomplete is part of the model, which means that paragraph that you used that you decided is not in fact accurate is now getting weighted by AI with some degree of accuracy or correctness. So I don't know, if you ask like what Alteryx does, some old version is going to pop up. That's not better in any scheme of anything. It dilutes. To answer your question, it dilutes the message. It dilutes what you're trying to do.
Matt?
Yeah, I would say like the problem I've been dealing with recently as it relates to this is like, I've got two tools that can detect the same thing, right? And one tool may have additional context to the right, and the other tool may have additional context to the left. If I just leave those disconnected in the system, AI is going to think I have two different, issues out there. But if I can connect them, have a common schema, have common data types, then I have a more accurate, full picture of the visibility I need for that one individual item.
So here's the other thing I was thinking is, Matt, you do this sort of initial cleaning up of the data, but then you have to kind of educate the person of how we're going to keep receiving this data. And that could be a very downstream problem that you don't see that they're going to have to fix. Like, how do you deal with that? Or are you just kind of always dealing with this at sort of the mouth of the river kind of a situation? What are you dealing with?
I both, right? I obviously, like trying to build a solid foundation of data is a huge part of the problem, but also understanding how that data is going to be used, who it's being used by. Like to me, like those are again huge problems to solve, and they're not just problems Alteryx will solve. They're problems that every organization solves a little bit differently.
Hmm. Good point.
And more broadly, I mean, I keep talking about data quality management, which is a subset of the discipline of information stewardship. It is an ongoing process. It's not like you go in and you organize it once and you're done. I mean, you have to think about the full life cycle of every byte of data. How is it created? How did you validate that it was accurate? How did you validate that it came from the source that you think it came from? How are you ensuring that it is kept up to date as more information happens? And when do you obsolete it? When do you end of life it? Because there is some data that needs to go away because otherwise it hangs around and gunks everything up. And so the whole concept of information stewardship is taking data quality management and putting that in the broader context of security and AI and analytics and everything else, and it is an ongoing process. So that's why kind of the foundational thing here, and Matt, you're nodding, so I think you would agree. It's like
Yeah.
you can't even take advantage of Matt's products if you don't have a data quality management or information stewardship group.
Very good point. All right. Hey, people. Oh, we've got some questions that have come in. Now I see them all. Wonderful. We answered this one. Okay. Oh, this
James
one I like.
put
I
the
like this one.
blockchain
Here,
in
I'm
all the
going
way at
for
the
this one
beginning, yeah.
from Ben.
Oh, that's a good one.
What are some examples of what good data looks like? Matt, I'm going to you first on this one. How can companies actually be successful at this? So, like, is there a poster child, or, maybe you can just sort of like give me sort of a listicle, like companies that do this and do this and do this and do this. That's the great poster child of a great sort of data company. Explain.
Right. I think it's a lot easier to talk about what bad data looks like. Good
Yeah, yeah.
is hard to define without a greater understanding of the context. But I would
Yes.
say,
Oh,
like,
good point.
yeah, uh, um, a lot of the data I deal with, the who, what, and when are the most important pieces of data. The greater asset metadata, being able to generate event sequences, and potentially like geographic network cloud context, those sorts of things. And then the data to be able to generate historical baselines based upon that data. Thinking about it with sort of my security brain, um, uh, those are the things that I think are good. But it's not just having those; it's having them in a well understood schema, and it's having them in a common format where, just like I was talking about earlier, like if we have got John Doe, J Doe, and John.Doe at alteryx.com, like that's all the same person, but you have to actually make it look like the same person in the data.
All right. What about you, John? What does good data look like?
I am taking a completely different, like 180, not 180
Mhm.
degree, but 90 degree orthogonal perspective, because I was thinking, first and foremost, you really need to have your data quality management needs to cover all forms of data, so structured and unstructured, so everything that's in a random file, but then also media data, video data, audio data, images. And most companies, I would say, are doing really well if it just covers structured and unstructured text and numerical data. I mean, that's pretty darn good, because most companies really are struggling with structured data. What AI does is add all the unstructured data into that, and it also reaches out and has tentacles into all other forms of things that we don't even consider data. But again, a photo of Matt, is that an accurate photo? Is it a photo from 15 years ago? Is it a photo of totally somebody else that AI just decided was Matt? And so I think an example of a good data quality management program is one that at least considers and addresses all forms of data, not just the obvious ones.
By the way, I like
That's
these
a
two.
fantastic point. Yeah.
I'm just going to mention these two quotes from Sema. Data discovery and management needs to go hand in hand with data governance. Good. And then also James Sparenberg's comment here. Good data equals data that has direct application to your business needs now. All right. So That's right there, right on point, James. But I will say this, I'm gonna say pro and con against like the comment I made about the comments about Salesforce. One of the things we've discovered in sort of data analysis over time is sometimes there are these moments of delight, like you started to feed this data, like weather data, and I'm just making something in that relevant to this, and all of a sudden you saw some correlation, like when the weather's warmer, sales go up or something like that. Like no one would have thought that. And if we don't have a broad understanding of like maybe we should put some other variables in that on the onset does not look valuable, but if we put it in, we may actually see some correlations here. Where do we say, let's give it a try? And where do we say, no, this is a bad idea? Because you're not going to know on the onset if this random data does have some relevance to this. Like, Matt, again, are you with me that there are these moments of delight that data do show you that you would not have been able to predict otherwise? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think finding insights in data that you didn't know were there, like it's certainly a strong point for AI.
Right.
Yeah. So, but in terms of being able to get to that point where you can actually trust what's coming out the other side, I think there's an immense amount of baselining that you need to do and ground truth validation via understanding what certain sequences happened. Maybe you did this manually and then you go and validate it with AI. And you can sort of measure these things using, precision and recall and false positive rate. All of these things are sort of invaluable tools in being able to trust your AI more.
Jonah?
Well, two thoughts occur. One is we do a lot of work with government three-letter agencies and the like, and they love that kind of thing. So, for example, questions like, how do you correlate Russian activity in Africa with, with XYZ? And it might be something as simple as wrappers of candies given to children that are in Cyrillic or something like that.
Right.
And by the way, sub in your favorite there. But to answer your question, when would you not do that? I think in some cases, there are certain questions that you probably don't want to be caught asking for reasons of assumed bias. Let me put it that way. So for example, if you remember the bell curve and all the noise about that, just simply asking the question, hey, are certain groups of people somehow magically smarter than others, turns out to be a question you really shouldn't be asking for a whole lot of reasons. So you have to be careful when you're asking questions that simply the creation of that question isn't going to get out, because that then becomes a piece of data.
I've
Right.
also noticed, like with these like large language models out there, pick your favorite, right? It
Right.
almost seems like you can convince them to give you the answer that you want by just continuing to feed them.
Exactly.
So,
And
like,
that's arguably what happened with the
yeah.
the work I referenced, which I'm not going to give any more credibility to. Also, we did get a really excellent comment from Seema saying in fraud detection it's very valuable to have that not so obviously related data. And I would take a step further and say, look, this is actually one of the huge strengths of AI and one of the reasons that people keep thinking more is better, because if you can cross correlate things that weren't obviously connected, that turns out to be fantastically interesting, both from an intelligence perspective and from a fraud detection perspective. But it also highlights the reason that you really want the data that you are cross correlating to be correct,
Yes.
because
Yes.
you don't
Just
want to get,
just correct. That's the other
yeah,
good point.
yeah,
So, all right. So this goes back to like, I like the idea that it's important to use data that's relevant for the business, but sometimes you don't know. You just simply
right.
don't know ahead of time. So really the answer is correct data and how much can you handle? That's another story altogether there as well. Want to remind people to register for our event that's happening next Friday. I have the register button at the very bottom of the screen. We're going to play our next game in just about 5 minutes or so. We'll play it.
Oh,
So hang tight for that. There was a question here I want to go. Aman Suds. I like this question a lot. Should training data sets be treated the same as critical infrastructure? I thought this is very interesting, with the same controls, audits, and compliance rigor as core production systems. That would make sense. And are these part of our audit plans, Matt? Have you seen it? Must be.
Yeah. So certainly, like I think whatever you're feeding into an AI system, you need to be able to validate what's coming out the other side. And I don't think that's any different than any other audit, right? We've said we have these security controls. We need to validate that they are in place and that they're working as intended on the other side. So to me, the data we're feeding into these AI systems are becoming more and more critical to businesses because of the huge productivity boost and people just leaning on them. So to me, yes, absolutely. I think it's critical.
Jonna, what would you add to that?
I'd actually be contrarian. I think
Okay.
training data sets are critical, but I don't think it's one thing to say, "Oh, hey, you're generating power, and therefore you need to check this straightforward checklist, like make sure you're doing it exactly right," or you're handling biohazards or something. The problem is there isn't necessarily a checklist so much as a framework to apply. In other words, you can't really say, hey, if your training data set checks these boxes, you're good, and otherwise you're bad. You can say, have you applied this framework? Have you applied this governance? Are you doing these right things? But it's so particular to what you're trying to do with that AI that I would argue that trying to turn it into a compliance issue causes more damage than it fixes.
Well, I'm not necessarily turning it into a compliance issue. I'm more advocating that uh, having some controls around the training data that goes into the system is a requirement. And sort of
Yes,
being
that's
able to
absolutely
measure
yes.
what's coming out the other side is more or less my point.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. The problem you run into is which controls are good enough, and once you get into well, you need these controls and this level of control, typically that runs well behind the technology. And by the way, how do you know what you're using that
Yes,
data set for? If you're
that is
just
true.
trying to predict, if you're just trying to predict what color lipstick is going to be hot next week, I don't really care. Get it wrong. I don't care.
Yep,
But, if you're actually looking at, doing medical diagnostics, I do care. So that's the challenge.
100%.
All right. I what what do people struggle with, Matt? Is it just sheer volume and the process of cleaning up data? Like, because when I think about this, I just go, oh God. Like you're like, that's my response. Like, and but your business, your work is to the people, because this seems like a real pain point. Like, I know I should do it. I don't want to do it. Can I just throw it in and just see what comes out, kind of a thing? I'm sure you get that. Yes. So like, how do you take the fear of even starting this? How do you handle that?
I, I for me and for a lot of the teams I've worked with, it's all about like what are our biggest problems today, and uh, you know we all have tool sprawl. We all have a
Mhm.
data in a dozen different systems, um, and we end up working through a lot of noise uh, in the effort to try to find some clarity or some insight. And so I think figuring out exactly where your biggest problems areas are and where you're spending most of your time today, where you can get the most ROI or the most improvement in your, I don't know, detection rates or something on the other side. And just picking an easy use case and starting to work through it and figuring out exactly where the noise is occurring and starting to cut that noise out.
All right, I'm gonna put up your poll again for just a second. I want to ask you another question. How do your customers know that you're cleaning the data and helping them that do that is actually giving them a better result? How do they know?
Typically it's by what's so you've got your data on the left, you've got Alteryx in the middle, and you've
Right.
got some output on the right. And the fidelity of the output on the right, whether that's reporting, whether that's AI, whether that's a clean enterprise data warehouse
Mhm.
that the data going in, it fits into the schema, or whether you're a financial institution and you're running your end of quarter sales through our tool in a repeatable, auditable process, and you get the correct answers that can be validated because it's all just math out on the other side. Like, to me, like that's the power of Alteryx right there.
All right. By the way, I'm putting the poll back up for people to say, go ahead, answer the poll. If you weren't convinced the first time and you still want a nice warm handoff, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and just respond to the poll right there, whether you would like to get an introduction or not. Now, I just closed it. Is it still showing up on your page? I think there's a way to close it if you've already. It's not showing, or it is showing.
It's not.
Okay. But people can, I think if you click the poll icon on the right, you can see the poll and you can go and answer it right there as well. All right. You know what? Let's play our next game. You ready, Josh?
It's time to play a brand new game.
Oh, let's put this up. Hold it, Josh. Before we do this, everyone, 115896, yeah, show that. This is the store. So scroll through this. This is what you could win. Any of these items. You could win one of these items. All right? You could pick one. You win. We give you one code to buy any one product. It's yours. And so if you are the winner, we're going to send you a code. And in fact, people who are previous winners, I think we have 3 or 4 next year. I think Andrew A can pick 2 prizes. We will send you a code to do just that. All right? So let's go back. 115. That, by the way, literally, you're all the first to see it because it just of literally minutes ago, we had them fix one last thing, and it is now live. And actually, I'm waiting to get the codes. They may have sent it to me. They have not sent it to me, but I will have the code soon enough. All right, I'm entering. I have not seen this game, so I'm playing. So if I win, nobody gets any prizes. Don't let
and
me
you get
win.
more swag.
All right. All right, I'm going to give a 10-second countdown here. So you better get in. 10. There's a lot more of you in there. You don't. By the way, if you don't play, you have 0 chance of winning. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Type it very quickly. 3. Anka. Last time you got in at the last second. 2, 1. Let's start this. All right, here we go. I have not seen this game at all. I just knew we were going to do it. That's all I knew. Your favorite deep fake. Which star is most exploited by scammers? All right. Some McAfee research. I believe this may be Scarlett Johansson, Taylor Swift. Who do we think?
It's kind of a hard one, I think.
Got 10 seconds. I got it correct. Taylor Swift, Scarlett, they're both immensely popular, but Taylor's more popular. We're going, it may not always be a popularity game. We'll see. All right.
You must be more in tune with pop culture than I am, David.
Oh, come on. Is Scarlett Johansson selling out arenas?
No, that's true.
We're moving the GDP of Sweden.
There you go.
Oh, we just did that, didn't we?
No. They're different people each time.
Got it.
You see, there's a number of deep fakes, and there's a ranking of them all. You just have to know which one's ranked higher. I blew this one. I thought Sydney Sweeney. All right, I'm out there. David Peach is going. Sri is up there. Good job, everybody. All right, Jenna Ortega. I'll say this after the thing. One of the best early deep fakes I saw was Tom Cruise. I said LeBron. But the first really good ones that I ever saw were the Tom Cruise ones. Those blew me away. They were good. David Peach is crushing it right now. All right, I think we got one more. I think we just got one more left here. Yeah, this is our last one. All right.
Oh man.
Ah, I, like everybody else, pick Kim Kardashian because she's popular and everything. All right. Now, did David Peach answer correctly? He will have won, my guess. But if not, let's see. Number 3, 2 out of 4. Chris, you win nothing. Number 2, David Peach did not answer correctly. But number 1, 3 out of 4 goes to Charlie. Very good, Charlie. Okay, Charlie, what you need to do is email me or actually, email Josh. This will be easier because Josh said, email Josh at josh@cisoseries.com and just give him your email address and we will get you a code. All we have to do is send you a code and we will get that to you. And all the passworders, we're going to get you codes as well. I just need to get the codes and I have not received them yet, but you'll get them and they'll be good for one item off our store. And congratulations. And we hope, by the way, when you get your prize, you display it proudly on the interwebs as well. So congratulations, Charlie, on that. All right. We have how much time we left? All right. Before I go into the questions, I'm going to ask the two of you. Actually, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to ask the two of you this. All right. So this is. We're going to be closing. We're going to be ending in 9 minutes. But everyone, stick around. By the way, we want you to stick around for our post-show meetup. It's a lot of fun. I want you to be there, especially if I've not met you before. But people I have met before, I love to see familiar faces. So you should still show up. Alteryx, huge thanks to Matt's company for sponsoring today's episode. So thrilled you could join us. Remember, go to our poll. Did anyone else answer on the poll? Go to the poll, the little poll icon there. Click on that if you'd like a nice, warm introduction to the fine people over at Alteryx. All right. We have moved our Friday show to Mondays now. It is called the Department of No. We have Jason Shockey, who's the CISO of Sendlar FSB, and Mike Lockhart, the CISO of Eagleview, will be joining us on the Department of No. This is, instead of a wrap up the week, it's a kickoff the week show. We run it a little bit differently. It's valuable for you. And what we want you to do is join us and be part of that conversation of what does this week's news mean to your security program? All right. And then stick around for a meetup. That's going to be at the very tail end of the show. What you'll do is you'll just stay where you are. It'll say breakout rooms forming. It'll have a 10-second countdown, and you'll be thrown into a room, but you can move around rooms. All right? And then very lastly, if you would like to sponsor Super Cyber Friday, email us at info@cisoseries.com. We've got plenty in 2026 for you, even in January. So ping us. All right. Here is my question for the two of you. Whoops. Here we go. I'm clicking wrong buttons here. Can you take that off, Josh? Please take that off. My question for both of you, and I always ask at the end, what have we not discussed that we should have been discussing? Jonna.
The word that leaps to mind is guardrails.
Okay.
Data
Yes.
guardrails for we've talked all about the data's life cycle, but what about the AI's life cycle, and where do we implement the guardrails throughout the AI's life cycle? Because one of the problems is you can have perfect data going in, not that anyone ever does, but let's say you do, and over time with training, everything gets muddied and murkied and abused. So that would be, I think, the thing we haven't talked about.
Very, very good point. All right. We'll talk about guardrails in just a second. Matt, what have we not talked about that we should have been talking about?
Yeah, to me, one of the questions I saw prior to coming into the show was around tool sprawl seems to make this worse, right? And we've got all of this data. Sometimes it's duplicate data, and sometimes it's completely unrelated data.
So the tools are creating the mess.
Right. And
they're creating the mess on the front end and the back end.
True. But I also just listened to your CISO series show from last week, where you guys were talking about bringing in these early stage, AI vendors because they're cheap and they're probably covering an area that you don't have covered, and you can really sort of build with them. And I think that's the direction I see a lot of companies going right now. So I think tool sprawl could be looked at as an issue. But I think if you can manage the data coming out of those tools and connect it more and build more context around your ecosystem, tool sprawl becomes less of the issue. And the data coming out is the solution.
Very good point. All right, back to your question with regards to, good point. Back to your question, guardrails. Here's my feeling about guardrails. The concept sounds great, but with AI, it seems like it's an endless moving target. Because when you put up one guardrail, people find ways around it. it sounds like a good idea, but it never kind of works right in practice, or do you feel it does, Jonna?
I would agree with you, but it's sort of, and I've been sort of waiting to use this analogy. As a kayaker, you talk about improving your forward stroke.
Mhm.
And one of my friends once said, the perfect forward stroke is like enlightenment. You pursue it, you never really get there.
Mhm.
And I think with guardrails, uh, yes, it's not possible to have something that's perfectly guardrailed. You know, we do the best we can to improve traffic flow, and we still have traffic accidents, right?
That-
But
Good
if you
point.
just sort of throw your hands back and say, "Nothing we can do," it's worse.
Right.
that
So
feel,
yes. Go ahead, Matt.
yeah, I was gonna say that feels like sort of the mantra of all of security. We're never
Yeah,
like, we're done with security. We fixed identity and access
Solved
management.
problem.
We're
Yeah.
good. We can go home.
Well,
Yeah.
perfect is the enemy of good. We say
Right.
that a lot as well. All right, we have how much time we got left here? Hold on, keep it. Okay, we
4
got 4 minutes.
minutes.
We're going to see if we can just hit one more question. We're going to get out of here. Um, uh, you kind of answered that one here. Let's see. Let's see what Dwayne said. Have you ever had a hard drive failure or some kind of data loss? The good data is the stuff you first check on when restoring. So this is I don't know if this is a question, but he's just making a comment. That wasn't the
He's
appropriate
answering
one.
the question, what is
Answer the
good data?
question.
It's the
Yes.
stuff you go look for.
All right, let's do this. Let's wrap this up. Last thought on this topic, Matt. And by the way, here I'm going to throw this back on the stage here. Show on stage. Please go ahead, answer this poll. Your last thought of, if you don't feel you're doing something right, what would be your first sort of step advice to our audience with dealing with your data?
Yeah. If you don't feel like you're doing something right, then like I think about it in a slightly different way. If you're spending more time arguing about your data than getting value out the other side, then you need to go dig in and find exactly where that noise is being introduced into your data.
I love that. All right, go ahead and answer our poll. And you can always click on the little icon on the right, the poll icon, if you would like a warm handoff. That's the whole point of that poll. If you want the handoff, answer any one of those results. Jonna, first piece of advice you give to people as they step in, because they're probably
I would
scared. Because by the way, I agree, this is scary.
I would basically say good data governance is foundational for good AI governance.
I love it. Thank you very much. All right, Jonna Till Johnson, thank you so much. Matt Goodrich over at Alteryx, both awesome people. Thank you so much for joining us. And here's the great part. We're going to jump into our post-show meetup. So everyone, stay exactly where you are. If you haven't registered for next week, go ahead and do it. If not, you can go to our website. We'll have a link for that as well. But that'll be our last show of 2025, and we want you to be there. So stay exactly where you are. It's gonna shut down. It's going to do a 10-second countdown. We'll be in the breakout rooms, and you can move in and out of breakout rooms. Do not feel bashful about jumping from one room to the next. No one will be insulted, I promise you. And don't be insulted if I do it either. All right, Josh, take us out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.